Hello and welcome to another Blues Focus match preview. And finally, we are back from the international break and we are set to take on Shrewsbury at St Andrews in Sky Bet League One. And I'm looking forward to this fixture because within that gap between the 1-1 draw against Northampton and this game at Shrewsbury, we have officially sold out our allocation for the Virtue Trophy final against Peterborough United, which is going to be fantastic news with 43,000 Birmingham fans travelling to Wembley. And it's going to be great to see all the people around London. Since 2011, we haven't been at Wembley, and now we return, obviously, not in the same stature of trophy, but nevertheless, it's going to be a fantastic day out for Blues fans. I'm looking forward to, mingling with everybody there, and I'm going with my dad like I did in 2011. So it's going to be a really fantastic day. But next up for us now, the main focus has got to be Shrewsbury, and I'm sure that's something that Chris Davies would say, as he likes to say, that every game, I suppose the next one is the most important game. That's his philosophy that he lives by. And I'd say for any Blues fan to watch that YouTube video that they put up at evening with Chris Davies, which was fantastic, as Davies and his management staff talk through their setup and the way they like to conduct things on the training pitch and obviously outside as well, with the mindset that they have. And it was really fantastic to listen to. So I'd advise any Blues fan to listen to that. And I suppose coming off the back of that 1-1 draw against Northampton, you could tell that the team was quite fatigued in that game. Obviously, we have got the depth and we should be able to counteract Northampton, who are quite low in the league, but you could tell there was a few tired bodies out there. So I'm hoping now that for this game against Shrewsbury, the players are going to be re-energized, rejuvenated, and we can carry on our fantastic record at home in the league this season, as we have not lost a league game this season. But obviously, Shrewsbury have beaten us in November at their place, as they beat us 3-2 in a pretty humiliating game, I suppose, with that 3-2 victory marking the first game of Gareth Ainsworth's tenure in charge of Shrewsbury, but now he has since departed, and that's the big breaking news from a Shrewsbury perspective this week, with Michael Appleton now taking the reins at Shrewsbury. And he's someone that's kind of bounced around a few League One teams as of recently, with Lincoln and Oxford and Blackpool and Charlton. So he knows the league very well, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of players within that Shrewsbury camp that are going to be fighting for their futures next season, because it looks very likely that they're going to be relegated down to League Two. And I imagine there's going to be a huge turnover of players. So the players that are now already there will want to make a good impression under the new manager. So it's going to be, I imagine, a pretty tight game, bit cagey, but I'm going to say that Blues are going to win it 2-0. And from the team that played against Northampton to the team of now, Pokes and Ho is a little bit of a doubt because he came off injured for Korea during international duty, so it could be a bit of change there, but I'm still saying that we're going to win the game, despite what I said about the Shrewsbury side of things. And to know more about Shrewsbury, we spoke to Jack from Shrew's Analysis to really get the lowdown on their season so far in what's been a turbulent week for Shrewsbury, easy for me to say, and now looking forward to this game. Right, so ahead of this game against Shrewsbury, we're joined here by Jack from Shrew's Analysis. How are you doing, Jack?
Hi, mate. Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Been a fairly, well, probably the craziest week I can ever remember at Shrewsbury Town this week. So, yeah, the fact we've actually got a game is maybe a welcome distraction. I don't know, but it's something that's not been on the minds of many town fans the past couple of days, that's for sure.
Yeah, you say the craziest week, you can remember a sport in the club. And I imagine that comes with the news of Gareth Ainsworth leaving to go and join Gillingham. And I was doing a bit of research into this, and it's just very strange, isn't it? Because earlier in this month, he was giving almost this rallying cry, wasn't he? Saying he was like crazy proud of the team, immersing himself in Shropshire and stuff like that. And, saying that he's proud to be the manager of the club, whatever division they're in. And then later down the line, he leaves for Gillingham. So where does that leave you guys? And how would you sort of evaluate this week?
Honestly, Sam, like I said, I think it has genuinely been the craziest week I've known in my time supporting the club. The chairman said it's it's the biggest bombshell he's received in 29 years since being at the club. And yeah, exactly like you say there. Ainsworth, to quote a phrase that's been doing the rounds from one of our former players, Jamie Tolley, he promised the world but delivered nothing, and that's how it seems. All these promises, all these, next year, or first of all, we'll stay up. Then, and it's when someone's taking you so high, when that then comes crashing down, it feels even worse than any normal managerial departure because of the way that he made us feel. I've just put a tweet out actually a few minutes ago saying that this time 2 weeks ago, I and many other town fans were at an evening with Gareth Ainsworth, where we all left thinking we are so lucky to have that man in charge of our club. And less than 2 weeks later, he's left. He's gone down to Kent to Gillingham. and his reputation with Town fans, certainly at the minute, is in tatters. I think I, the only way I can compare it to in our recent history is when Paul Hurst left us to go to Ipswich shortly after the League One playoff final in 2018. But even then, Hurst was going to a team in the Championship. So for this now, everyone knows we're down. It's not about saving us this season. It's about what he promised moving forward. And to depart on that as things stand at the moment, yeah, he's certainly done himself no favours in Shropshire, that's for sure.
And you think about his first game in charge of Shrewsbury, obviously it was that 3-2 win against Birmingham at home, and you really felt like the atmosphere from your side of things. I remember him going around the pitch after the game, sort of like applauding the fans, and it felt like you were sort of a tight-knit community then, and it just hasn't quite materialised in that way, has it? I know ever since you beat us, it's 4 wins in the league, and it's not quite been, I suppose, the spell that you would have liked, but with Ainsworth saying that he was going to stick for you guys, even if you went down to League Two, I suppose that's where you're looking at it when you said you came out of that evening with Gareth Ainsworth thinking we're lucky to have this guy. So is there anything internal that you think might have happened between, the board and the manager? Because we've seen that before at Blues. So is there anything on your side that you think could have happened that the fans don't know about yet?
The big thing that people are assuming is the fact that given we are in the process of being taken over, we're in an exclusivity period at the moment. The easy assumption is that that is no longer happening. The club have said that that isn't the case and that the takeover is still on track to happen. But that's the easiest assumption to jump to, that Ainsworth was promised some, this funding, this investment, this backing, and he hasn't been given that. From what I believe, I think it's a case of, yes, it's maybe taken longer than everybody hoped it would do, but that's through no fault of the club. So as things stand at the moment, my understanding is that nobody can turn around and blame the club for this, because the club can't do anything about it. It's all to do with the investors that are looking to buy, rather than the club changing things or moving the goalposts. Obviously, when we beat yourselves in that victory, which no one gave us a chance of, I know I certainly didn't. That was, that game in itself will go down as one of the best games in town's recent history, which probably says a lot about, us over the last few years. But we beat you, we beat Wrexham. We're the only team in the division to beat yourselves, to beat both of those teams, and we're 14 points adrift, which just shows how crazy football is. But yeah, I think if someone had said to you that Gareth Ainsworth wouldn't be in charge for the second fixture against Birmingham City, they would have thought you were mad. And as I've said there, football's crazy. And unfortunately, this week, Shrewsbury fans have been given a stark reminder of just how crazy the industry is for clubs like ourselves in particular.
And you think back to that game in November, what do you think Shrewsbury got so right on that day?
I think the kind of the game plan that we implemented with that kind of counter-attacking style, again, I think the possession was somewhere along the lines of 80-20 in favour of yourselves. But if my memory serves me correct, all of the goals came from a counter-attack. We had Tom Bloxham and John Marquis up front. Tom Bloxham in particular, with his pace and his running in behind, his ability to do that, his direct nature certainly was an output, or an outlet, should I say, for the goals. And in fairness, Marquis did well at that as well. And that was certainly a big part, exploiting the space in behind your defence. Whether we'll be able to do that again on Saturday, I don't know. Bloxham's gone. Obviously, there's all the turmoil of this week as well. So I don't think any town fan that's heading to St Andrews this Saturday is expecting anything, to be honest with you.
And in terms of players that stood out that day, you said there about the strike force of Bloxham and Marquis. Obviously, Bloxham now gone, and I don't know if Marquis is still suspended after that red card in record
Yeah.
time. But
I think he might be back this Saturday off the top of my head, I think.
okay, yeah. So he'll be back this Saturday. What other players would you say to look out for within the Shrewsbury team? Because you said there that you hurt us on the counter attack last time, and in terms of us dealing with counter attacking teams at home, we've done pretty well this season. But there has been slight vulnerability. So who would you say could exploit that?
That's the thing, in fairness, mate. We haven't got many players that you'll look at and go, oh, they'll be a threat. And, that's one of the reasons why we're bottom of the league. I had a conversation the other week, and I don't think I've ever seen the Shrewsbury team be so poor at capitalising on half chances or chances that they're given. Any opening that we get, we don't have that quality to actually take advantage of it. I think offensively, George Lloyd is someone who fans will be looking to try and keep heading into next season. He's done okay. He works really hard. He's a decent outlet in the air, but I think he's only still got 5 goals. You've got young Callum Stewart, who's coming from Leamington, a step up from the Northern, National League North, I think it was. But again, this is his first time in professional football, so you can't expect him to, deliver anything meaningful, certainly at this stage. The players of calibre would be Jordan Shipley, really, but he himself has had a torrid 18 months, 2 years at the club when he's looked a shadow of the player that he was in his early time with us. So that's the big question, really. That's one of the reasons that we've struggled is because we've got no offensive output, really. And when you ally that with the fact we've only kept 3 clean sheets, it doesn't take a genius to see why we are where we are, unfortunately.
And you said there earlier about the gap, between yourselves and safety. It's 14 points now. So from now until the end of the season, what are you looking for from a fan's perspective from the players? Because it seems like that journey is going to be, too high to try and get safety. But obviously, I suppose there is still pros you can take as a fan from some things that you could look to see from the players. And now that the manager's gone, there could be some fresh ideas. So is there anything in particular you want to see from the players from now to the end of the season?
Um, Obviously, that hard work and commitment is something you always want to see when you go and watch your team play. But I think Gareth Ainsworth alluded to it in his last interview, actually, or one of his last interviews, that the players aren't playing for this season now; they're playing for next season. They're playing to show why they deserve to be at this club for next season to try and get back out of League Two. If that's well, that will be our aim. Whether we'll achieve it, I doubt that. But that's what they're playing for as much as anything. And surely that must be as big a motivated factor that forget about playing for the badge and the club and the fans, which they should be doing. They should be thinking, I've got to play for my contract next year, which at the minute it isn't certain. No one in that squad can say they've got a divine right to be here next season based off how bad we've been this year. So they've got to show, they've got to roll the sleeves up, they've got to get stuck in. I'm sure the usual lines will be trotted out of, while it's still mathematically possible, we'll fight for it. And clearly you'd like to hear that to a degree, but everyone knows we're going down. But it's showing us why you deserve to still be at our club after this season. You've been at this club for one of the worst seasons in its history, relative to the division that we were in or that we are in. Yes, there's different factors to that, but you've still been part of it. You've got to show us why you deserve to still be here next year, basically, and show the person making the decisions for that, be it the director of football or the new manager, Michael Appleton, why they deserve to offer you a contract or to keep you next season, I think.
And you say there about Michael Appleton potentially being the next manager, and with Appleton's CV, I mean, I think his last job within League One was Lincoln, I believe. And in terms of like his League One experience, he's got quite a lot of experience within the league. So, what could you say that you're expecting from an Appleton side going forward with Shrewsbury in terms of maybe being hard to beat or capitalising on what you said, your counter-attacking strengths?
Yeah, I think Appleton's been at Charlton since then as well. I seem to remember him being there at maybe start of last season. But in fairness, he's on a bit of a hiding to nothing, really. If we go down, it's not his fault. We're not going to stay up, so when we go down, it won't be his fault. And it's a case really for me of looking ahead to next season. He was asked in his press conference today, has he had any discussions about next season? And I believe his answer was no. So it's kind of like, yes, this season there's still pride to play for and there's still 27 points to play for. But in terms of how we're going to set up, being honest, I don't really know. I'm not sure. Certainly, his latest jobs haven't really been at teams that have been in the position that we're in. He's not what you class as a firefighter or anything like that. Teams like Charlton and Lincoln and Oxford in League One, we're all expected to be there or thereabouts, which I think in itself is a different challenge managing that kind of team to managing a team in our position. So how we'll set up, I don't know. He has alluded to the fact in this interview today that he's always been a manager who maybe not prefers scoring goals than keeping clean sheets, because I'm sure he'd love to keep clean sheets. But the way that he set his teams up, they've always seemed to score more goals, relative to the ones that they've conceded, and then maybe a bit better going forward than they were in defence. So I maybe think he'd get us trying to play a bit more football than Gareth Ainsworth did. It's not it might come across like a criticism. I don't mean it in that way, because in the situation we were in when Ainsworth came in, we needed the points. So I'm not criticising him for his style of play, albeit it wasn't the prettiest to watch. But I think that maybe he might try to get us playing a little bit more. But yeah, he's dealt with a very limited hand that he's chosen to join. So whether he'll be able to do that is another question in itself, I think.
So with Appleton now as manager, is it been confirmed he's going to be taking charge of the game on Saturday?
I believe so, yeah. He was appointed, or it was confirmed last night. He was interviewed today. I imagine he took training today. So I would guess he'll be in the dugout for Saturday, I would imagine, yeah.
So it's quite a coincidence. Obviously, the last time we played you guys in the league, new manager, a win against us. So are you foreseeing that the same thing might happen this time around?
I think anyone would have given you long odds of it happening last time. I think this time it's even more so.
Crazier things have
Um,
happened at Blues, Jack.
that's true. That is true. That they hope for a bit of a new manager bounce. I think we're taking a decent following down there, as you'd expect, given the geography of it. So if we can put up a performance, and again, it's about playing for that pride, really. Even if we do get somehow got a win on Saturday, yes, it would be great to get that win, but it's still an absolutely monumental task to achieve the objective of staying up. So What we'll see, who knows? The least you expect is a bit of fight, a bit of passion, and make it a hard game. And if we could do that, then who knows? You never know, I suppose.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Jack. And just before we sort of go off air, would you mind just shouting out what you're doing at the moment with Shrews analysis and the work you've got going on at the moment?
Yeah, of course, it's something I started up to try and do a bit of statistical and tactical analysis of the club. Being totally honest, I don't get a chance to do as much of that as I have done in the past, and I would like to do. Given I've got a young family and that kind of stuff. So it's more just a kind of my thoughts on the club, really, with maybe a bit of that in there too, if possible. I try and put out stat packs before every game as a bit of an overview for the opposition, which my Birmingham one will be going out probably tomorrow, and I'll do that before every fixture. And I'm hoping to get out a stat pack for Michael Appleton as well, just as a bit of an overview of his career. Again, hopefully today or tomorrow from there. Hopefully, or maybe things will change in the future if I can start getting a few more, a bit more content out there. Hopefully, I've been on the radio a few times of late chatting about it as well. But yeah, more just the musings of a fan now, I suppose, with a bit of other stuff chucked in there from time to time.
Sounds like a very busy time for you as well, obviously with now all the radio stuff going on as well as the stuff on the
Yeah,
pitch. So plenty to speak about.
definitely. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, Sam. It's really appreciate it. Cheers.
Yeah, no worries. And we'll have Tommy doing his match day vlog during the game, and then we'll have a podcast on the Sunday as well. So make sure to look out for that. Check out Jack's stuff as well and keep right on.